You know that moment when you're sitting with people and everyone is talking over each other and you're quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you're watching. You notice the way someone laughs a little too loudly at a joke that wasn't that funny. You notice the half-second pause before someone answers a question. You notice the shift in tone when a certain person enters the room. And sometimes you realize things about people long before they ever say them out loud. Most people assume silence means absence. Absence of thoughts, absence of confidence, absence of personality. You may have even been called quiet, shy, reserved, or distant, as if something is missing. But what often goes unseen is that nothing is missing. Something else is happening. There's a certain psychology behind people who talk less but observe everything, and it's rarely explained in a way that actually reflects their experience. Because on the surface, it looks like passivity, but internally, it's anything but passive. Psychologists have known for a while that some nervous systems are more sensitive to subtle social cues. In research, this is sometimes called high sensory processing sensitivity. Brain imaging studies have shown that these individuals tend to have more activity in areas linked to awareness, emotional meaning, and pattern detection. In simple terms, their brain doesn't just register what's being said, it registers what's underneath it. The micro-expressions, the inconsistencies, the emotional atmosphere. While others are participating in the conversation, part of their mind is mapping it. Not intentionally, not as a strategy. It just happens. And over time, this creates a very different relationship with silence. Silence stops feeling empty. It starts feeling informative. But this pattern rarely begins in isolation. It often forms early. Environments where emotional reactions were unpredictable, where speaking freely didn't always feel safe, or where understanding others became a way to stay connected. A child in that environment learns something very quickly. Observation creates stability. If you can read the room, you can prepare yourself. If you can sense shifts early, you can adjust before anything happens. So the nervous system adapts. It becomes attentive. Not because it wants to withdraw, but because it learned that awareness matters. Over time, this awareness becomes automatic, even in safe environments, even when there's no threat. And it's important to say, this isn't better or worse than being expressive, talkative, or externally oriented. It's just different wiring. Some people process externally. They speak to discover what they think. Others process internally. They understand first and speak later, if they speak at all. Neither is more correct. There's simply different ways of existing. But there's a part of this that people don't often talk about. When you observe this much, you also see things you can't unsee. You notice the moment someone stops being genuine. You notice the subtle ways people protect themselves. You notice how often words don't match feelings. And sometimes that makes it harder to participate casually. Because once you see the deeper layer, surface-level interaction can start to feel unfamiliar. Not meaningless, just incomplete. There's also a quiet paradox here. People who observe everything are often seen the least, because observation doesn't announce itself. It sits quietly in the background, taking everything in. And this can create a strange kind of invisibility. Not because you are invisible, but because you're not constantly projecting yourself outward. And yet, this same trait carries something valuable. Observation creates understanding. It creates depth. It creates the ability to see people beyond their performance. And even if no one ever taught you to do this, your nervous system learned. Not randomly, but for a reason. Which is why there's nothing wrong with the way your mind works. Nothing broken about the way you move through the world. Your silence was never empty. It was full. Full of information. Full of pattern. Full of awareness. And if you've lived this way for a long time, you've probably realized something else too. You don't need constant noise to feel connected. You just need moments where someone sees you the same way you've always seen them. And strangely, people like you often understand others deeply, but rarely stop to ask why they understand so much in the first place. And that answer explains more about you than you might expect.